Hi there, I'm Ember, one of the co-directors of the North Country Comic Con in Watertown, New York. We created this show to give you a sneak peek of some of the amazing things ahead for Nococon 2023. Recently, I sat down with Bill Faram of Willie's Paint and Print to discuss what drives him as a creator and what his prospects might be as defending Craft Challenge champion. What do you do?
It's funny because I actually go through this every Sunday with my D&D campaign. I'm Willie Paint and Print. I'm a 3D printing TikToker. And my major focus is to educate about 3D printing.
All right, so 3D printing, very cool, very awesome. It's gaining popularity every year. What is it that got you started in the wide world of 3D printing?
So, initially, I had a garage when I was a child with my father, and I used to take things apart completely in this garage and how things work. I used to make things out of wood, spray paint in the garage, so on and so forth. Mom used to yell at me when I spray paint because the house stunk. And unfortunately, I had a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, and that 2-bedroom apartment, there was no chance in hell I was going to be able to cut wood, sand, do things that I can normally do in a garage at a 2-bedroom apartment, because for 2 reasons. 1, my landlord's going to hate me. And 2, my girlfriend, which is now my wife, is going to beat the crap out of me. So, I really wanted to get into 3D printing because I always thought it was a awesome idea that you can able to make things from literally just computer files to the real world, and it gave people a new outlet for cosplay and just statues and just prop replicas of things they like. So I got my first 3D printer. I believe it was in 2019. I got my first 3D printer, and it was given to me by my friends as a birthday gift. And I never bought a printer for myself. And it gave me a new outlet to be able to start being creative again, because I was living in Queens for almost 4 or 5 years, and I didn't make anything for 4 years. It was kind of like a dry spell, and it drove me crazy. And 3D printing was able to let me actually do the things I wanted to do again and things I enjoyed again. I was able to make statues in my apartment. I was able to make like 3D busts and explore and make things and test things that I want to do. Make wild things to help around the apartment, like coat hanger hooks and everything. And it was just like, I'm able to now explore and experiment like I used to do in my parents' garage. Now I can do in my 2-bedroom apartment, which I don't have a maker space. Well, and that's what got me into it initially.
That's very cool. I mean, especially the utility of it. It provides the outlet for both the creative impulse, the artistry, and I very much relate there. I've had to go long periods without having to do something creative, and it just kind of, it feels bottled up inside, and it eats away at you. But the utility, it's not just a good space saver. I'm reminded of the story a couple of years ago of how they're 3D printing tools on the International Space Station, because it's more efficient to bring the 3D printing material up and then make what they need than try to bring one of everything they might need.
I think because you and I spoke on Syracuse Maker Faire, where I showed you that I have the wrench that they actually made. It was the first file that came from Earth and emailed up to the space station, and I printed it out of carbon fiber. I think I showed you that at Syracuse Maker Faire.
Yeah, I believe you did have that at your booth. You had a whole bunch of different things. You had the articulated squid-looking things.
Yep. I got a lot of things that are articulated. Kids love playing with them.
I remember definitely Nococon, but possibly at Maker Faire before that, you had one of your printers was printed by one of the other printers.
Yep. My Prusa Mark III made my Voron V2. And everybody loves seeing that. And I actually may be making another printer like that very soon too. So
Yeah, just be sure to keep it away from the AI, because once the AI can self-replicate, we are done.
Listen, as long as you go ahead and become a stockholder in Skynet, you're completely fine.
Yes. So what is it about 3D printing that excites you and keeps you inspired and keeps you going?
I love the idea that you were able to make anything you can dream up. Honestly, I just give you an idea. I just finished watching the anime Chainsaw Man. I just watched the whole entire series. I binge watched the whole thing in a day. And I kind of just looked at it. I'm like, you know how it would be awesome if I had chainsaw hands. And you know what? I'm looking around for files or making a file to give myself chainsaw hands because I want it. And there's another time where I was watching the movie Rambo, and I'm like, God, I really want that Rambo knife. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go find the Rambo knife and make it. Like, it's the idea that you're able to do these things when you didn't have the resource before. I had the conversation with Emily, the engineer. I was a part of her Discord server for a while. And I asked her the same question. I'm like, Emily, why Iron Man? She goes, well, because I wanted to build something cool. Mm-hmm. And it's something she related to because she went for school for engineering. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, that's absolutely right. I mean, think about this for a second. You can't make an Iron Man suit out of cardboard because it'll be so boxy. All right. Make it out of foam. The paint will chip every now and then. You have to constantly touch it up. You make it out of metal. It's going to be heavy as hell. Mm-hmm. 3D printing was the ideal situation because you have infill percentage. Yeah, it takes 20 something rolls to make a suit, but it's lighter, it's durable, and it's just easier to work with. 3D printing, I think it started in 2014, I believe, where and what happened was it's just like it just blew up when it came to the maker movement, when it came to the maker fairs. Then it ended up happening with cosplay, and cosplayers, I feel like personally, cosplayers blew it up more than the engineering industry did. I have a personal goal for myself with anything I get myself involved with. It could be beer, it could be food, it could be carpentry, Legos, you name it. It could be jerky, 3D printing items, prop items, you name it. My goal every time is that even though I'm not going to take up the hobby, because like, for an example, beer brewing is a pain in the butt, honestly. Mm-hmm. But I make sure I make at least one thing from the thing I enjoy to appreciate the craft that goes behind it. I've made one beer. I've made one mead. I cook all the time. I'm planning on getting a food dryer and everything to make my own jerky. I loved making props, right? And just ironically, 3D printing fit that niche for props when I had my apartment. If I had a wood shop, I would be a completely different person. I would probably be making everything out of wood or cardboard or foam like everybody else was initially doing before 3D printing happened. Mm-hmm. But because of my lovely friends who bought me my first printer in my apartment, it gave me that outlet. And there we go back saying it gave you the outlet. I feel like 3D printing was able to give a creative outlet to individuals who were not skilled enough to have like the from a pile of cardboard, a pile of wood. They're able to now craft it in softwares like Tinkercad and SolidWorks and Blender and use their imagination and form it before they can actually make it. So you're able to make an item on the computer, see how it works, see how it functions, see how it looks before you even go to the printer and until you're happy with it. So it's also not as wasteful, I feel like. Because if you make something out of wood and you don't like it anymore, well, guess what? It's either firewood or you're using it for something else. But at least with 3D printing, you can make it on the computer, like the end result. Say to yourself, I'm happy with this. Then go to the printers and print out something that you created or something that you modified for your own design and bring it to the real world. And it's like you said, it's a universal magic wand because you have flexible material, you have material that has wood in it, you have material that has copper in it that you can add aging solutions. The possibilities are endless, and still today they're making new filaments out there, and it's baffling what they're doing.
You touch on something else that's also unique about 3D printing. Like if you wanted to shape something out of wood, you have to invest the time to learn the carpentry skills to get things right, and you're still not always going to hit every time. But with 3D printing, you do have to learn how to use the machine and how to manipulate the files and how to, make it work. But you don't necessarily have to know how to craft a hammer. You can pool your knowledge and experience with everyone else in the community.
It's the perk of open source software
Right.
and open source projects. There are some people who do not like open sourcing, and I can understand it. I mean, I'm in the manufacturing and engineering field, so I understand what goes behind it. But 3D printing was built on the idea of open sourcing. Open source software is like Cura, which is one of the most known slicer programs out there. Arguably, is probably even better than Simplified 3D, which is another slicer software. The first printer was initially made. I forgot what it was called, but then what happened is then the Prusa came out, and then after the Prusa came out, Creality was like, "Hey, we can make this out of 80-20 aluminum extrusion," and then that came out. And now what's happening is if you put side by side the image of an Ender 3 and then an image of an Ender 3 V2 side by side to each other, and you go to Thingiverse and look at all the modifications people did for the Ender 3, all those modifications that people did on Thingiverse for the Ender 3 is on the V2. And that's because the company made an open source, realized it. Hey, they're making knobs for the extruder. They're putting drawers underneath. Filament runout sensors are a thing. The Ender 3 and even the firmware like Clipper and Marlin is all open source. And right now, Clipper is taking over the printers, and it was open source. Right? The problem is that I feel like when it comes to closed source like Markforged, I have a Markforged printer at work, and I'm going to tell you this now. The parts are almost as good as injection molded. They're beautiful. I'll never be able to get that speed and quality and structure integrity on my printers that I can with the Markforged. But they made their proprietary software, and it took years to develop that. But when it comes to, for an example, the Boron community, which is all open source, it's the community. The community makes it's called what I call garage engineers. These are guys who just want to make printers, have fun tinkering, and it's one of the best Core XY printers out there because you make it your own. And that's the printer I brought to Syracuse and also Nococon. It's you build it your own, you have an understanding behind it, and it's based on the firmware because everything is open source.
Yeah, and the wisdom of the community, the ability of rapid engineering by open source through the community, it also has real-world applications. Like, I'm reminded of how during 2020, when there was a severe mask shortage, a few people came up with quick, easy-to-print designs for masks, and then by the magic of the internet, disseminated them all over the place. And so hundreds of thousands or even millions of masks were produced that normal manufacturing could never have accomplished.
It was because of the community. That's how I look at it.
Oh, for sure. I personally think that sparking inspiration, even if it's only in one person, is like the highest goal for life, because you've spread that fire on outward into the world.
Yeah, there was a kid at last year's Nococon. He was dressed up like Link. I don't know if you guys have photos of him somewhere, but he was the cutest little guy ever.
There were a couple of links, but I think I know the one you mean, and I'm pretty sure he's on our cosplayer banner for this year.
Oh, is he?
I think
so. He had a prop he made with his dad in a garage, and he follows me on TikTok. And he comes up to me and he's just like, hey, I made this prop. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And his dad turns around and he's like, yeah, we drove all the way over Pittsburgh because he wanted to see you and show you the prop. I looked at my wife and I looked at my friend Marshall, who was manning the booth. I'm just like, give me the chairs. Give me the, and like, I sat down with this kid. I'm like, hey, how'd you do this? What'd you want to do? Like, how'd you make this? How'd you sand it? Like, what'd you use? Like, and I started talking about it. And this kid, he was so shy, but again, like the words of Adam Savage, get a maker to talk about something they're working on and good luck getting them to stop. It was the most heartwarming experience I had from the con, because the fact that this kid wanted me to see what they're working on and show me what they're working on, I felt like I was this kid's Papa Bill at that point. I'm like, I was able to inspire him and show him how to do things. And this was 3D printed. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is amazing.
As defending champion from the Crafting Makers Challenge, you will be going up against Michael from Props to History this year. How do you feel being an experienced 3D printing engineer person going up against such a renowned props creator, movie-related person? How do you feel that challenge is going to go for you?
It's hard to say. And the reason why I say it's hard to say, because I don't know what the challenge is. And I also, I know what the history is, and not the history. I know what the field is like for entertainment, because I once was in entertainment for a while. I did it for about 2 to 3 years. I was in entertainment, so I know what the prop world is like, and it's completely changed. It's completely changed. There's more 3D printing in props than you could ever think of right now. I'm gonna say that I'm excited to meet Michael. I'm really am. I'm really excited to even just like get up from my booth, go over to him, and just shoot the shit and just talk about things that things I've experienced with my short amount of time of experience that I had in the industry to what he's doing now. And I would love to hear how the industry has changed, because I went to school for special effects. How I think it's going to play out, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
People should obviously come see you at Nococon and any of the other makers fairs that you make an appearance at. But in the meantime, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. And yeah, I try my hardest to post there regularly. And I am also on Facebook. I'm also on TikTok. Same name, Willie's Paint and Print. It's spelt, I made sure it's spelt the same way and everywhere else. And if you want to contact me to talk about your projects, it's williespaintandprint@gmail.com. Same as it's spelt as anywhere else. My link tree on TikTok has all my links there. You can contact me, talk about your projects. I even actually set up a Discord. I was bullied enough at Nococon to set up a Discord. And we have some really awesome makers there. And we do video game nights and we do movie nights. So, and I'm there personally, and we will talk about anime, movies. Believe me, it's some good fun and shenanigans.
That sounds really cool. Thank you, Mr. Bill, for joining us, and thank you for coming back to Nococon and bringing your unique blend of enthusiasm and creativity.
It's an absolute honor. If anything I can say about Nococon, it's an awesome convention that's made by fans, developed by fans, and ran by fans who love the world of just conventions and nerdiness and just the world of what a good comic convention should be. And if you guys end up coming to Nococon, and anybody who's watching this video, please come by the booth, say hi. I'll be more than happy to talk about your projects, and make sure you follow Nococon. There are some awesome people there.
Thank you all so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please take a moment to click that subscribe button, because we have so many more interviews with other guests and featured creators in the weeks ahead as we count down the days to the opening of Nococon 2023. Tickets are already on sale, so be sure to get yours now, and we will see you this June.